Welcome to Over the Fence with Team Linda Stewart, your neighborhood news source. Today's podcast is about market trends and how COVID-19 has affected the community and the housing market. I was joking with a friend the other day that we should really call it COVID-20 because it's kind of screwed up our 2020 in a lot of ways. Anyway, that's just my opinion. I'm sure they won't change the name just because I say so. Right, Marie?
Probably not.
So today, Marie Harrod is with us from Equity Title, and for the past 7 years, she's been providing agents and the consumers with her cutting-edge Las Vegas market update. We want to hear a little bit more about that, and I know she's got some updates to talk to us about today. But for now, I'd like to know how you got in. I mean, you're in escrow and you've been in marketing for many years. What made you decide to do this? I mean, what prompted it all?
So I got into the escrow title world back in '95. And there was an amazing man that was in town in our title real estate world. And he would go out and he would put on these, we could call them a dog and pony show, to the brokerages, to the title and escrow companies, to the trade organizations that the real estate community has. And he would bring videos of things blowing up and building in front of your face, and he knew who had the money and where it was coming. And when I left those meetings as a new person here in Vegas and a new escrow officer, I felt like I knew something that nobody else did. And
I remember those,
right,
yeah.
So it was really exciting. Well, then we had 2007, 2008, and in all honesty, there wasn't a whole lot to put on a video screen and get excited about. He had some health issues, he lost one of his children, so he kind of wasn't out there doing it. And then as we rebounded, there was so much exciting stuff happening, and we all get caught up in the negativity of what we do every day. And so we have to find the positive and the things that we can counter any objections that people may have about what's happening in Vegas or our market. So I just thought, I'm gonna do a bunch of this research, and about every 3 or 4 months, I'll update it, and then I'll go do my own little dog and pony show to the brokerages and to the trade organizations so that people kind of know what's happening, and then give it an excitability so that people can talk about it. If they're door knocking, if they're doing something with a neighborhood, they can talk about what's happening in Las Vegas. It is exciting.
I know for me, it helps me because I have clients coming from California and all over, and they're saying, well, when's it ever going to end? When's Las Vegas coming back? I don't see this. I'll ever, wait, and they're all panicked about, gee, I can't move there right now. It's good to have fuel like what Marie provides to say, well, we're still building this and we've got this exciting new project, and hey, did you know about this or that or the other? So I wanted Marie to come in today so I could hear more about it. It's totally selfish on my part so that I can use it with my clients.
Good for everybody.
There you go. I also want you to tell me about that bus trip to Apex.
So because so much has been happening up towards Apex with the Hyperloop and all of that, and not far from Apex is a cute little town of Overton and Moapa. And then you've got North Las Vegas that you get into before you hit Apex. But because so many things are going to be happening out at Apex, and for those people that may be coming there to work, they're probably going to want to live relatively close to there because of the drive. So I got a bus, I had a bunch of realtors on the bus, and we made our first pit stop at the truck stop right before you get up to Apex. Now, I've never taken a busload of realtors on a little tour, but anybody who has children, if you've ever been on a field trip, letting loose a dozen realtors in the truck stop was like carousing a bunch of kindergartners to get back on the bus.
Or herding cats.
Oh, I'm telling you, whether it was purses, sunglasses, they loved it. But I wanted the agents to see when a consumer says, I'm gonna be working here, here's the areas around there where be close for you to live. So much is happening in North Las Vegas with the villages of Tule Springs out by the VA hospital. There's going to be over 2,000 senior homes, or a community out there with over 200,000 homes in it. So, that's a great area that's growing. And then up in Overton and Moapa, it's about a half an hour from Apex. It's just a quiet little country bedroom community. But if you're going to work at Apex, that's not a far drive, and depending on where you're coming from, those homes out in Overton and Moapa, they tend to not be blocked in. So you've got a shrub for your divider between your neighbor, not a concrete wall. So depending on where folks are coming from, that area out there might be something that they enjoy a little more maybe.
Right, coming from the Midwest, for instance, where I know she grew up in Indiana and I grew up in Wisconsin. We didn't have a lot of fences. It was mostly shrubs and bushes and trees that separated property.
Right.
So, well, that's great. I was looking for a little more of the skinny on how those agents behaved, because from what I remember, and I've known Marie for a long time, before she went on this bus trip, she was all excited. I'm going to do this and I'm going to show them this. And when she came back, it was like, oh, that was just a hot mess.
It wasn't too bad, but now, I would love to kind of revisit that, but just kind of with what's happening, I'm probably not going to put a load of people in a van or a bus and drive them out there just yet, but we'll revisit that when we can do that.
Exactly, absolutely. There's a lot going on in the Las Vegas Valley, not the least of which is the Raiders Stadium, which shall remain completely empty of fans for who knows how long.
But they were in it to practice, so that's very cool.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, they were in practice the other day, so I'm sure that was pretty cool for them to get in there to do that.
Absolutely. So tell us about a few of the things that are going on that are still happening in spite of our COVID problem.
So, we haven't had a new resort or a hotel in quite some time. So Fremont Street, which, that's old Vegas, right? It's amazing. Derek Stevens has been such a pillar and such an asset to the downtown community. He's the owner of the D, but he also purchased Glitter Gulch and a couple of others, the Mermaid, and he's now got the Circa. So it's partially opened. Some of you who've been here or people who are listening who know Fremont Street, it's pretty iconic and used to be back in the day with its signage. And there used to be a great big sign outside the Girls of Glitter Gulch, and it was Vegas Vicky. Her boyfriend was Vegas Vic. He was across the street and down a little bit. But these are huge signs that light up. Well, they made their way down to the Neon Museum when the Glitter Gulch was sold. Well, Vicky now is in the lobby of the Circa.
Oh, how fun.
Yes, so I'm very excited to see that. The Circa being downtown, little vintage. I'm a numbers person, so there's 44 floors and 777 rooms.
Oh my goodness. So who has this thing about numbers that go together?
I do. So that's a big plus for me as well. The first 5 floors are open. So they've got some restaurants open, the pool area is open, and let me tell you, the pool area is set up amphitheater style. So it's levels. They have a video screen that's 134 feet by 41 feet that they're going to do concerts and sporting events. So here's the scary thing. They're expecting 4,000 people a day to visit that pool. Now, I'm not going to be 4,001. I'm just going to share that with you right now. I'm going to let them marinate on that and kind of peruse that a bit and check that out before I make my first visit to the pool area. But amazing. And their garage, it's the Garage Mahal. That's their parking garage. So we have so many great hotels who've been here for so long, they weren't really equipped with the parking garages for Uber and Lyft. So when things were still popping and going towards the last quarter last year, if you went to a hotel on a Friday or Saturday night and you went to get your car from the valet, it was a sea of people and a sea of cars trying to find the Uber that was theirs or the Lyft that was theirs. Because when the hotels were built, they didn't build their garages for Uber and Lyft. So now the new resorts being built are incorporating that into their parking garage. So it'll be really, really cool to kind of see how they make that a little more seamless of a process.
Yeah. It looks to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, as though the parking garage is below the hotel?
Yes, that would be the basement, I believe, is what they call it there. Yeah, we don't have basements here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and isn't it right across from the plaza? Isn't that where they're building this?
Yes, it's right. Yes.
Because I frequent one of the restaurants at the plaza, and I've kind of been watching it get built until all the COVID started, and then I haven't been back to Oscars, so I didn't even know that it was done. I saw a picture of it the other day, and I knew Marie was coming on, so she'll tell you that I had to do part of her job for her and sending her all the information in the picture, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool, you gotta talk about this. So it's really great to hear about that.
The pool's a rooftop pool, so the pool's all up at the top, so that's very, very cool. And the rest of the floors will be opening and taking reservations about the end of December.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Any idea what the cost of those rooms are going to be, or?
That I'm not sure about. Yeah, not real sure. Now, I will tell you, they have kind of some different rooms. They have a bunk bed room.
Oh.
So if, you know, a lot of them are suites, and there's a cute one that's got bunk beds in it. So families coming with kids, you know, Fremont Street's a great place to kind of be able to walk up and down and people watch. It's the best place to people watch in town.
Absolutely.
So yeah, hopefully that'll work out really, really well for them. So
that's great.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And then we've got, oh my goodness, well, you know, you've got, well, not the Hard Rock anymore, but now Virgin. But I got a little bit of skinny yesterday for you that I think the Hard Rock is making a play to possibly come back in and repurchase. That was the word on the street yesterday.
Hotel?
Yeah. So they are supposed to be getting the keys in November. So construction's been pretty much on par for that. Also, too, because they're in the midst of the construction, they can now try to get the thermal heating thermometers, the keyless entry for the doors. One of the interesting things that they're thinking of doing, and you may have seen some of this on Facebook or social media, birdcage pods for events that are outside.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
It's like a dome bird cage, just like a bird, you'd see a bird cage that's metal that you can see in. And so that is what they're contemplating using for outdoor events, if they have that.
I don't understand.
Well, it separates you. You're in your own pod with your family.
Everyone has one of those.
So if you're there with your hubby for an event, you and your hubby will have your own pod.
Oh.
So that's just kind of what they're thinking and talking about.
In, so it's
Absolutely.
Not as exciting
well,
as
no. It is G-rated, so no, you
Okay.
can't do that. But they don't really know if they're going to open up fully in November because, you know, when you have a 4,800 seat theater and you can only do half capacity or less, that's a lot on your budget when you've been talking about ticket sales and what you're going to get for that. So to open those up and not be able to open up your restaurants to full capacity or your theater to full capacity, that's just going to cause issues with the whole process. And things I didn't think about because I'm not in construction, and rightfully so, you know, the lifts that the construction workers get on to go up to, well, you can only have one or two in a lift at a time now.
Oh, I know.
You can only have so many people on a floor working construction at a time now.
Think about elevators once they get the hotel
Absolutely,
open.
absolutely.
Some of those elevators get so jam-packed with tourists.
Right.
And
So you can
others.
see how things might not quite be on schedule, but they are on schedule to hopefully get the keys in November, but they're going to let us know next month, about the middle of next month, kind of what that exact date for opening will be. You know, if you've ever been here in Vegas to one of the hotel openings, it's kind of like Black Friday. People are pressed up against the doors, like waiting for them to open. And so
the
that
line of cars coming in from California is so long that you
Right,
have
right.
to go the other way when they're doing it to laugh at them all.
Absolutely. So that's going to kind of be an issue with people that are kind of used to going to those events.
Right.
That's going to be kind of an issue when they try to do that. Resorts World is amazing. So Resorts
Tell us where that is first.
So Resorts World is where the old Stardust is,
Oh,
or
okay.
was. So it was
Which is by the Fashion Show Mall, if you're not familiar.
A little bit
or have
east,
a
yeah.
background. Mhm.
So it had its sign put up on the 4th of July and lit their sign. So those are the big outdoor signs that all of you, if you drive up and down the strip, that light up the strip. And as these hotels, being so new, they have the state-of-the-art LED lights. Some of the other hotels who've kind of been there for a while, if they've not upgraded their lighting, but the new ones, they're so bright, like you can see them from clear up the strips.
From Mars.
So yeah, almost, yes, yes. So very, very cool. They just submitted their plans for the to merge with the underground tunnel that Elon Musk is building to get to the convention center.
That's cool.
The convention center has been under its huge reconstruction. However, we've never had a great way to get attendees to all the hotels, to the convention center, and then back. And some of the conventions are so large that the major hotels have meeting rooms where they'll hold little sub-meetings for those conventions. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of people leaving the convention center to get to the Bellagio for part of the seminar and then to get back to the convention center. And our wonderful monorail system just hasn't quite made it to all of those areas yet. So there's always been underground tunnels from clear back in the day, not necessarily for vehicles.
I wonder what they did back then.
I know. So they're just expanding on that, but Resorts World did put in their permit so that they can connect to that, so that they can be a part of that, getting back and forth to the convention center. And they are still on schedule for next summer opening.
That's great.
Absolutely. Now, the one thing that's a little bit of an issue is the Sphere. So the Sphere is that
It's supposed to be like this huge
Sphere.
Entertainment sphere that they were going to be able to do movies and concerts and all kinds of things.
Yes.
And you could see it from outside. It looked amazing when I saw pictures.
So we had to get in one of the largest cranes in the world to work on the Sphere. It took 100.
You weren't there.
Well, no, I wasn't. We meaning Las Vegas. I just pretend. I just play a construction person on TV. So 121 flatbed trucks had to bring the crane in disassembled. That's how big the crane was. Wow. 366 feet tall is the top of the sphere. Now it should hold 17,500 people. So music venues, all that good stuff. However, they ceased working because of COVID. They went back to work. Obviously, because of what's happening, there was some financial issues. There's some trades folks that haven't quite gotten paid as they should. So now they're not working again, and it's got quite a few liens on it from tradespeople who haven't gotten paid. So the scheduled completion date was 2021. It's now 2023. And it's behind the Venetian, so you can't see it from the Strip, which might be okay for now, that we don't have to drive by this big ball that's not completed and look at it on a daily basis.
Like the Fontainebleau for so long.
Exactly, and that's what we were talking about yesterday. Goes, oh yeah, like the Fontainebleau, exactly. So our hope is that they do get that completed, that, and here in Vegas, when projects end because of finances, there's usually somebody that scoops in right behind it and then kind of picks that up and then finishes that process. So
that's not happening.
Well, not yet, but I do believe that's what happened with Resorts World. So Resorts World stopped, somebody else came in, bought it, and off they went.
Yeah,
so
I do know that that's what happened with Resorts.
Right. So my hope is that it does get completed, and if the current group that has it can't, then hopefully somebody can come in and be able to get that completed. It'll be amazing. And again, just another super venue that Las Vegas has for entertainment. So how that entertainment's going to now look to us in the years coming is still to be determined. I told somebody the other day, the crystal ball that I have, it isn't crystal anymore. It's pretty cloudy.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to kind of tell what's going to happen. But Resorts World is, again, going strong, and Circa's already opened. Again, Virgin Hotels Las Vegas, they're moving right along. It just may be extended a little bit, but they're still there doing construction. So it's all exciting and all good.
Well, that sounds great.
Yeah.
I hope to hear more about that next month, and also maybe next month when you come on, you can talk more about there's several, from what I understand, there are several areas in town that are building communities for hospitalization and that type of thing. One down in Henderson, and I think there's another in the center part of Las Vegas. And you probably will know more than I know by the time I see you next time.
Yeah, Henderson's been working on theirs for quite some time, so it's still growing in, and the hospital is done, but we can go into more detail on the health side of that. And then, there's some great affordable housing coming, even in Summerlin. So we really have to think about getting, with wages and what people are making, that first-time home buyer is not a $350,000, $360,000 home buyer, so.
No, and the first-time home buyer now, we're seeing more and more pricing in the mid to high twos, rather than, you have to be able to afford $300,000 before you can even buy a house. And with interest rates the way they are, it's pretty crazy how much house someone can afford without a lot of money in, etc. So that's for another time.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that on another episode. However, I'd like to talk a little bit, because we've heard from you, Marie, that some things are going like gangbusters and other things are just kind of stalled, and we're seeing economic problems with them, that type of thing. So I wanted to talk about the hot issue, which is what's going on with the housing market because of COVID. I've done a bunch of research this morning. In fact, you'll see a chart on the screen from 2010 through 2019. The single family median price has gone from, ready for this, $132,000 to $312,990 actually, which is an average increase of about 24% per year. It's crazy. So as we started this year, the market trends were heading in the same direction until March, and we all know what happened then. March and April began a downward trend in inventory, which forced an upward trend in median sales price. It's the old supply and demand. And you'll see another chart now that talks about this year, and we're comparing market median price to the number of months of inventory that we have on the market. And at the end of July, which is as far as the LVR information went for the MLS, there were 7,913 homes on the market with a median sales price of $315,000. And the average time that it would take to sell that many homes is around 2 months. When we started all this back in 2010, if you looked at the figures for how long we had on the market, it was probably 4 to closer to 5 months. There were some downticks in that, and really we've been a level 3%, or three months, I should say. So in other words, we've had enough inventory to last 3 months if nothing else happened. And then the hope is that other people are bringing their house on the market so that you're refilling the pot, so to speak, so that buyers are able to get in. However, I can tell you that from personal experience, the listings that I've had, I have one in Piccoli Ranch, a desirable area of town where Marie actually lives. That's why I'm pointing to her. We have had 12 offers on that property, and most of them came in bunches, and we've taken it off the market for 2 buyers, and both of those buyers became skittish. One didn't like the landscape, and the other one, her relatives talked her out of buying right now, so she totally is out of the market. And we're seeing a lot of that with COVID, where people are just plain scared to move forward. I had another client who lives in California buying a multi-million-dollar home here, but she hasn't been out of her house in California since March. And she decided that she just couldn't even make a trip here. She finally was ready to pull the plug, and someone else scooped that property up. So, you know, it's happening and things are selling. We're seeing market trends toward people getting into homes. And yet we're also seeing buyers just kind of backing away at the last minute. And one of my clients, in fact, that same one with the 2 offers that we had taken it off the market, said, "Next time, Linda, would you make sure that they're not flakes?" I don't know quite how to do that, but when I figure it out, I'll let y'all know.
Well, you know, it's a very anxiety-causing process to buy a house anyway.
Right.
No matter
Totally.
what world or what our time is like. But now, a lot of times buyers go, well, we're going to go home and let us think about it over the weekend, and we're going to talk to our family. You don't have the weekend right now.
No.
So you've got buyers, number one, that may be a little nervous about buying a house. It's their first house. But you have to have that conversation with them that there's no thinking about it over the weekend.
No.
We're going to go out and look, and I'm going to need you to pull the trigger, or we're not going to get it. And so that causes anxiety. So
right, because a lot of people who are buying homes have been told that the real estate agent's just in it for the money. So if from my point of view, if a real estate agent says to a buyer, "Hey, if you don't decide on this right now, it'll be gone tomorrow," it sounds like, "Yeah, right, I'm sure." And here's what happens. You say that once or twice to the same buyer and it does happen, and they don't get it, then they listen to you the next time. It really is a fact of the market. With interest rates under 3%, people that can afford it and don't have that nervousness about the COVID and about what's going to happen. Am I going to get my job? Nurses, doctors, I would assume, teachers, etc., are still going to have a job. It'll look a little different, but they will still have a job when this is all done. I don't believe that. In fact, Marie and I listened to Jeremy Aguero, who's with Applied Analysis here in town, and he has been evaluating our market, for 25 years or so. And he said he doesn't see, I poo-poo this, but he said that he doesn't see us coming out of this until probably 2023 or 4 or 5. And that to me is a very scary thing. I think that people will be very scared to do anything, and we'll see the market trends go even a little bit more toward a low inventory and higher prices as we go. We've also got those people that lost their jobs and they've now gone into forbearance on their mortgages, and he feels that that's not going to affect the market overly much because we're more prepared than we were back in the short sale era when we had our last great downturn. They call it the Great Recession. I don't know the difference between a Great Recession and a depression. I don't see that there's all that much difference. And I wasn't alive, I don't think, Was I alive
just
in
say
the
no.
Depression? We'll just say no. No, I wasn't. I'm so young. At any rate, we'll keep our ear to the ground as 2020 finishes out and bring you more information so that you understand what's going on with the market, so that you can decide if it's time to pull the plug or if it's time to maybe leave Las Vegas and head elsewhere and sell your property here, or just sell some of your rental properties. Because right now, the governor has said that there can be no evictions, and he's also said that until further notice, you cannot at all ever show a property where there's a tenant in the property. So the only way, if an investor has a property that's tenant occupied, the only way that they can get rid of that property is to have someone take a leap of faith and look at, they won't even have pictures because we can't get in to take pictures.
Right.
So they have to take a leap of faith and say, oh, that looks like a good deal, let me put it under contract, and then maybe they'll get to be able to go in and do an inspection. So I foresee that we're going to see a real stall with sale of non-owner occupied properties that are owned by investors that have come from out of the country, out of state, etc. So once that turns around and the governor says you can go in and see those properties now, waves his crystal ball and says it's all going to be okay now, everybody, then we'll see those properties get back on the market, and they typically, because they've been occupied by a tenant for so long, need more work, need more updating, etc. And then we'll see the other investors that are doing what we call flips coming into those properties. We're already starting to see that a little bit, where people are professional flippers and they just go, and I don't mean Flipper the dolphin on that old TV show. They go in
Thanks for clarifying that.
They scoop up a property for less than the equity that's in the property. So the current seller doesn't get his equity to take to another property, which affects the economy in that way. And then that person builds it up so that it's now worth, quote unquote, more than what the market will bear. So now you're affecting the market like that. So the economy is going to have a lot more, and if you could see the charts, the one that I had up here earlier doesn't really show it so much, but some of the charts I was looking at this morning as I did my research were like the roller coaster on steroids, and that's what we're going to see over the next few years, because there is so much uncertainty with what's going on with COVID and what's going on with all those projects that we talked about.
Well, I think the election and the vaccine or no vaccine.
Yeah.
So, for me, I am just riding through, doing my job, doing what I'm doing, just like everything is peachy and rosy. And then, come January, November, we'll know a little bit more based off the election. But, come January, February, first quarter, hopefully, we'll be able to kind of maybe get a better idea if there's a vaccine, if it's working, are people feeling more comfortable. So
Right.
I agree the Jeremy year that he gave us was a little bit scary.
Yeah.
And so I try to be positive Penny. So I'm going to look for that to say by the end of next year, I'm going to feel super good, and we're going to know that we can get out places. We'll have open houses again.
Right.
We may do different events differently. There may not be huge concerts. Some of those things may be a little bit different.
Exactly.
But I'm going out there and acting like every day is a new day, and it's my day to get business.
And that's really the best thing we can all do. I really feel that when we look back a few years from now, we're going to see this as just another flu that came in. Yes, was it devastating? Absolutely. Were there a lot of deaths? A lot more than there should have been. And in reality, there's probably some of those deaths that really weren't COVID. That's a conversation we probably shouldn't have in public, because people feel very strongly one way or the other. As you can see with what's happening with our country, there's a lot of real strong emotion on both sides of the fence.
Oh.
So on that segue,
I like how you did that.
thank you for tuning in to Over the Fence with Team Linda Stewart of Signature Real Estate Group.
Thanks so much.
Contact us at 702-596-1351. Like us on Facebook at Team Linda Stewart of Signature Real Estate Group, or visit our website at teamlindastewart.com for more information about any of the subjects that we've discussed today.
Absolutely.
Or on buying and selling real estate. We can certainly do that for you too. Thanks for tuning in.
you.